Welcome to the Bookish Introverts podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Brett and Melanie. We are back for another exciting book talk, and today we are discussing one of this lady's favorite books.
It is a favorite book.
Is it one of your favorites, or is it your favorite?
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's not even my favorite of the set. No, it's like a saga.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite of the saga. I think my favorite might be the last one.
You stole one of my questions. I was going to ask you.
I'm sorry, fixed it. But it's certainly, if you read a series, even if the first one doesn't turn out to be your favorite in the series, it always has a special place in your heart.
Just because it's the first.
Just because it's the first.
That started it all.
Discovered it. Yeah. It's how you discovered it. So, yes, we are talking about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is, of course, the first book in the Chronicles of Narnia series. Written by C.S. Lewis, who really doesn't need much of an introduction.
He doesn't need a lot of fanfare.
Clive Staples Lewis.
But you want to know something funny? I thought C.S. Lewis was like from the 1700s.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a classic book. And so
It is a classic book.
Yeah. So, like, I
is.
always thought C.S. Lewis was like from, 1732 or whatever. And like, when I kind of Wikipedia'd him, I was like, what? He was like in the he died like 10 years before I was born.
Hey, yes. I didn't realize, I should have, I'm ashamed of myself, but I didn't realize that he was Irish. Either that or I learned about it at some point and forgot it. Didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of C.S. Lewis fans, I tend to get on the internet, there's kind of a back and forth, a joke about C.S. Lewis was very, very good friends with Tolkien.
Mm.
And of course,
which
is Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Two very different.
I was thinking Game of Thrones. That's wrong.
Also very different. Two very different styles of writing. I adore Lord of the Rings. Please.
Never read it or watched the movie.
I've seen the extended edition, and I've watched the extended edition with the cast commentary over it. More than once. I'm kind of sad.
I'm an audio commentary level.
But reading Lord of the Rings, it's not for everyone. Tolkien is very...
Is it like a cerebral type read?
He's very, very detailed. He does have that in common with the author of Game of Thrones,
George Martin or something like that.
To read the book.
Is that
it? Yeah. I was like, this meal has gone on for 10 pages.
Yeah.
I don't need to know this much about the meal.
You can only hear about somebody eating a turkey leg for so long.
Exactly. But it's interesting to me that they were such good friends, because they clearly had very different ideas. And also, it's funny because Tolkien hated allegories. Hated allegories. This is nothing but, it's straight up allegorical.
Yeah.
The story of, not the full story, but, Aslan or Aslan, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
That's another internet thing. It's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He's Jesus. You'd have to be blind not to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you don't know that.
It's been like 80 years. I don't think this is going to happen.
After 80 years, can there really be any spoilers?
Yeah. So it's funny to me that they're such good friends when they have such different, and it's kind of cool too. You know, I love to imagine the arguments they must have had. There's all sorts of stories on the internet that I highly recommend looking up if you get a chance.
Okay.
They're just hilarious because it's like writers getting back at each other.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, he's Irish. He was atheist.
Really?
Yes, left his teachings, what he had been taught as a child, and then eventually came back to them. I think he kind of credited his friends with that.
This is why it's important to choose carefully who you put around.
It is important to choose carefully who you put around you. I also found it very interesting that he did not marry until very late in life. He was born in 1898, and I think he married in 1956.
Sweet Jesus, there's still hope for me.
So there is a movie about his marriage that I've always wanted to see. I think it's called Shadowlands. I've never watched this. Got Anthony Hopkins in it, and I've always wanted to see it, but I've never gotten around to it. And I think it's about his marriage. He married an author who she already had 2 sons. One of them was Douglas Grisham, who sort of have a bone to pick with, but that's about movie rights. So.
So sorry, you don't need to hear about this. We know Melanie has strong opinions on stuff.
That's neither.
Especially movies.
So, but yeah, it's a classic. It's a simple book. I'm not looking for this podcast to be super long or meaningful because it's a children's. This is a children's novel, and it just has a special place in my heart. It was introduced to me when I was in the 5th grade. I was attending Gateway Christian School at the time, and my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Fleming, started reading to us The Lion, the Witch, and the Wizard. And I was just completely taken in.
You know, these days a teacher would get arrested for reading that to their class.
They probably would. Now,
a drag queen is okay, but C.S. Lewis is a no-no.
At a Christian school, maybe not.
Oh, well, true, yeah.
I did have a friend who their parents pulled her from the school over it.
Really?
Yes, because it was called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wizard.
Oh, it had witch in the title?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Charlotte wasn't allowed to watch. So, I disagree strongly with that. But that's neither here nor there.
You're the parent. You get to do it how you want.
Raise your kid the way you see. I'm no mother, so I certainly can't tell you how to raise them. I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But that's how I got introduced to it. And then I found out there were more books. And I was like, oh, it's fantastic. So, it didn't take me long to get through them. After that, there's 7.
Now, are they all like, I think this one, I read the Kindle version. I think it was like 150 pages. Are they all about that?
They're all fairly short. I don't know if any of them are over 200. My book is part of a box set, and I think it was 170 pages. There might be. I'm not sure which one is the longest in the series, but they're all fairly slim books. I mean, they're kids' books, and kids' books up until Harry Potter were usually books.
Yeah. And then J.K. Rowling came along and bam, 800 pages a book.
Right?
I never read any of it.
If I could get through them. I've never read Harry Potter. I've watched movies, but I've heard she's a good writer.
Now,
I wouldn't know.
One thing, actually, I've heard, of course, when you hit that level of notoriety, and she's a billionaire.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I've heard people say that technically speaking, she's not a great writer. But any author's going to have their haters out there, and that's the sort of stuff.
That's true.
Yeah. So I don't know what kind of. I made $1 billion back standing in a boo-boo, so you say whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I would be.
I'm sure her feelings are really hurt.
Yeah.
Every time she, gets a new car or
exactly. Yeah.
Other people would say she's not a great writer.
Yeah. And writing.
I don't mind.
That sort of thing is subjective anyway.
It is. It is. but it's, and again, it goes back to, I feel like C.S. Lewis, it is a very simplistic book. It's not hard to read. There's not a lot of, well, what does he mean by that? Well, it just says right there what he means by that. There's a little bit of fourth wall breaking, which I've forgotten about and amused me when I reread it. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. He sometimes does this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there were a few things that I didn't know what he was talking about. Like, I mean, I knew what he was talking about, but it's just sort of the British way of talking, I guess.
Sometimes,
like a sleigh, they called it a sledge or a sludge or something like that.
I noticed that this time too. I always could have sworn before that it said sled, but I guess
I could tell by context what it was, but I was like, oh, I've never heard a sleigh called that before. So.
I don't know that I had either, but I mean, I read the book before, so maybe I have heard that, but yeah, I that stood out to me too. I was like, sledge.
Yeah.
Remember sledge.
Yeah, I thought that was
that that one. Some of the slang that the kids use, it kind of catches you off guard at first, and then you're like, oh well, yeah, let me search through my brain for something that might be on par, or you try to think of old movies you've seen, or you try to think of other books you've read, and that'll give you any kind of clue as to what they're saying. But I enjoy the way it's, like we've said before, it's hard to write kids.
For sure.
You can really mess up writing kids. And these 4 children, the Heavensies, I believe is how it's pronounced. I went years pronouncing it Heavensie. I think it's Pevensey. I don't know which one is correct, but these 4 kids have captured the imagination of literally millions of people for years. And something must have worked about them, because even as the books aged, it didn't seem to matter. I mean, I was in the 5th grade in 19... It's like everything.
Yeah.
Come on.
My mama always said a woman who'll tell her age and her weight will tell anything. Never tell your secrets to a woman that will tell her age or her weight, because she will tell it.
I'll tell you, it was before 1990. That's all I'll say. But not much before. And kids are still reading it today.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people are still reading it today. So to be able to take these kids and write them, because they do feel like siblings.
They do.
I didn't have a lot of I don't have a lot of experience with siblings who are close in age. But when you've got Peter, who's the oldest, and he's kind of, he's
the boss. And he likes the boss. And
he does kind of like the boss. Yeah. And then there's Susan, who honestly
she kind of likes the boss too.
She's an oldest daughter, and that's she kind of likes the boss.
Yeah, and there were a few places where I kind of felt like he wrote them a little old for their age.
You could make a case for that.
But it could be the fact that they were British and it was the time.
You also have to remember, if you're comparing them to kids now, or even kids 30 years ago, you've got children who were born at least in the 30s.
It's not about the time frame that this book was.
Well, we're right in the middle of World War II, so we've got the raids.
Which is what precipitated their move to.
Yeah. So, I mean, kids back then were just raised with better manners.
Yes.
For one thing.
Yes.
And then for another thing, you've got these 4 kids who have had to grow up already pretty fast because of the circumstances surrounding them. The continent around them is at war. their father has gone off to war. I don't remember it saying that in the book, but clearly their father is not in the picture, and you have to imagine he had to have just gone off to war because that's what British men did.
Yeah.
At that time, they
didn't shirk
the call of their country, and they went off to war. The Germans were there, and they needed to be taken care of, and then they lose their mother because they get shipped off out of London to this country home, which turns out to be a great place to live. I mean,
yeah,
wrong.
Well, and one thing I wanted to ask, I can't remember, how did they wind up with the professor? Like, was he a family friend, or I couldn't remember how that happened. Is that?
And I meant to look this up and I forgot. But if I remember correctly, there were several households in the country that just sort of volunteered,
maybe like safe houses,
to take these children from the city during the air raids. Because, they were so worried about the kids being in London, the bombs, because, I mean, it was pretty brutal from what I understand, the air raids in London. So, I think there was like a government program in these houses in the country. We had people in little cottages. You had people, I think, in big manors that, we have rooms in these children, so at least the children can be safe.
Yeah.
Don't know if they ever took the mothers on. I think it was just, let's get the kids out of the city,
out of the line of fire,
because this just isn't. It's not okay. Not okay. So I random.
Do any of the books ever talk about what happened to her? Because like once the kids off, I mean, you never hear about her.
They are mentioned. Their parents are mentioned again.
They are.
They're never a big character in the stories, but yes, their parents are mentioned again.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So everything's okay with the parents. Parents are okay. No problems there.
Yeah.
But
and I also kind of was like, okay, how did a professor have this big fancy house?
A nice little question.
I mean,
and I don't know that it's.
That's just kind of how my mind works. Little, yeah.
Questions.
I don't think that was ever answered, but yeah.
He's got this big.
Because it sounded like a big fancy house.
Yeah, he's got this big fancy house, all these rooms. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've read this book, and it's been a long time since I've read all the others. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there's any mention of his family having, because, as you know, he does not give responses that Susan and Peter expect.
No, he doesn't.
When they ask him about
her behavior, his behavior.
Yeah, about Lucy and
Edward
and this,
Edmund.
And he's just like, "What do they teach them in school these days?" And they're like,
"Yeah,
wait, what? We're confused. Why don't you talk like an adult?" So clearly, and then at the end, spoiler again. It's he clearly knows what they're talking. He knows about Arya.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of this is a surprise to him. So probably not a surprise to you. At some point in the series, there is a book about him.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
In his role, the way he discovered Arya.
I mean, that's a good one.
It is a very good one. It is The Magician's Nephew is that one.
Okay. There's a friend of mine were talking, Abby, we were talking about this, and I was telling her that we were doing the first book of the series. Well, she apparently, she was saying, well, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe's not the first book in the series. And
it is not in the timeline of the story.
Okay,
it's not.
But in the writing order that you wrote it, that's the first. Okay, and then so when I got to Google it, I was like, it seems like there's a controversy out there about which one's the first one. And
I will always say that this one is the first one.
I agree. If that's the one he wrote
Because
first.
It is the one that was written first. It is the one that was published first. I'm pretty sure it was. I know it was the one published first, and I just feel like he kind of went prequel and
Yeah.
went that, which is fine. That's it. I always think it's kind of cool to go back and discover
For sure.
hero stories. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with that. I will never, if I ever take it into my head to read through this series again from beginning to end, I will never start with The Magician's Nephew.
Mm-hmm.
I just won't.
Yeah.
Because it's not the first book, The Lion and the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the site that I went on to look at the order, because she was saying that wasn't the first book, and I was like, well, what Melanie said it was the first book, and I always thought it was first book. And the website that I went to had The Magician's Son? It said The Magician's Son was the nephew was the first one, and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was the second one. So, but then when I got to look into it, I realized it's because some people consider that the first one, even though it's not the one that he wrote first.
In the timeline of the story, yes, it is.
Yeah.
I think there are some things that ring a little different if you just stick with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You don't experience it quite the same.
Yeah.
I think. But
I kind of want to experience it the way Lewis wanted you to experience it.
I mean, in the meantime, you've got this professor, and you're like, well, what's his story? What's that about?
Yeah.
I'm confused. I want to know more about this professor in the country with this big room that has nothing but a wardrobe in it. Why would you do that? Well, that's why he did that. So, I think publishing order is with.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, well, and as an author, for sure. Yeah, I'm like, publishing order is what it's all about.
Yes.
If you want The Magician's Nephew to be the first one, you bet.
Do whatever makes you happy, but I will not say Magician's Nephew is first.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry. It's not gonna happen. But yeah, the way the kids interact with each other and the way they get on each other sometimes.
Yeah.
Calling Edmund a little beast and teasing Lucy, and sometimes they'll just, you just like to boss people around, and it rings true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all hilariously polite sometimes.
It is, because it's so not today.
No.
Not today, like you hit your brother in the back of the head with the basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not that I've ever done that, Mother.
So
if you're listening.
I didn't do it. It wasn't me. So yeah, it's cool to see how charming they still are, but they still, they're kids.
Yeah.
And of course, Lucy is. It's interesting because I always think of Peter and Susan kind of, even though they're the oldest two, they're kind of middle of the road. Whereas Lucy is sort of a symbol of probably the best that we can be.
Mm-hmm.
She's innocent. She's the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
She's very innocent. She believes quickly, and she believes with her whole heart. She's kind of an image of what we should be in our faith.
Yeah.
To me. And then you have Edmund, who...
He's kind of the trickster.
Bless him.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a little honor to him.
Bless his heart. Bless Edmund's heart. Edmund is really more who we are.
Yeah. For sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
And as far as Chronicles of Narnia controversies goes, there's a big one when it comes to Edmund.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I have to agree with most of the people. People want to know. They're like, they're a little mad at Edmund because they tried Turkish Delight, and they want to know why he's selling his siblings out for this nasty Turkish Delight. I have tried Turkish Delight.
I bought us Turkish Delight.
I was going to. That is so funny.
Yes, I didn't know if you'd ever tried it or not.
I tried it,
So, yeah.
and it was not very good.
Yeah,
but I got it from like Sam's.
Oh, no, okay.
So I was willing to bet, I got this at Sam's Club.
I got this shit from Istanbul.
Did you really?
Yes,
No,
I wanted.
different.
Yes, I wanted. See, I looked for it on. Yes, I looked for it on Amazon because I was like, okay, we can't read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and not try Turkish Delight, because I had no idea what it was. So I went on Amazon to look, and
That's so funny.
but I didn't want an Americanized, westernized version of it.
Yeah.
So it cost me $75.
Oh my gosh, Brent.
To ship this from it.
Great.
This came from a confectioner in Istanbul,
That's insane.
Turkey. Yeah. So I thought at some point we were going to try it. There's 4 different. I want you to finish what you were saying. And apparently these are the 4 traditional flavors. This one's got pomegranate in it, pomegranate and pistachios.
Pomegranate.
Yeah. This is a pistachio. This is rose. And I don't know what that one is. The website didn't say. So anyway.
It's disturbing.
Yes. Yeah. And I even emailed the company. I was telling them, we're doing a podcast. We're going to try Turkish Delight on the podcast. So I kind of would know. But the website only told you what 2 of the 4 flavors were. I don't know why they would do that. So anyway, finish your story. And then when we got to,
yeah, I bought it at some, it may not have been Sam's, but I bought it at some bakery around here. And it said it was imported, but
who knows?
Been imported from a delivery truck. For all I know.
Exactly. From Detroit.
There are people that say it's not good. There are people that say, I don't know what you're talking about. It's great.
Yeah.
And then there are people that say, well, this is a child who is deprived of sugar.
Yes.
Because of sugar rationing. He hasn't had sweets in probably years because he's been in a country at war.
Yeah.
No sugar.
And Reese's peanut butter cups, have they even been invented by that time? Probably.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. Cool.
So, and also magic. They made it very clear. It was magic Turkish Delight.
Yes.
So.
Well, and that's after I read the book, I rented the movie and watched it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Did you like the
I wanted to see the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. I liked the movie better than the book. I'm going to be honest.
The movie was good. The movie, it's one of the rare instances.
Yeah.
Where I approved of. They get a little more action in there because you want a little more action in the movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
And all the kids were great.
Mm-hmm.
Edmund especially. Edmund blew me away, and Lucy too. Perfect voice for Aslan.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, perfect.
Liam Neeson.
Is that who that was?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a rare, pretty much spot on adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare. Only they had kept that.
Yeah. Now there was one thing that I've noticed, and I'm blanking on it. There was one thing I noticed that was different in the movie than it was depicted in the book, which is not uncommon. You would expect that, but there was one thing that it didn't happen in the movie the way it happened in the book, and I totally can't remember what it was because
Well, I know I noticed that in the book, they shave the mane from his face.
Mm-hmm.
Now in the movie, they do that and they take the mane and she wears it into battle.
Yes.
It is freaking amazing wardrobe choice. It really was.
It was.
I don't think they mentioned anything about that in the book, but kudos to whoever thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's at the coronation, there's all this talk about to the Eastern Sea and the thing and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? They're the kings and queens. I felt like they were trying to get a little too new age with that, but I was happy with, the allegory that had been left in in one piece.
Yeah.
So I didn't gripe about it too much. I can't think. Mr. Tumnus,
Yes.
which was kind of the beginning of James McAvoy's
Oh, was it?
career. And yeah,
Is that how-
that was one of his first
I like Tumnus.
big things. Yeah. Tumnus was great. And there wasn't a bad casting choice in it. Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, and I'm trying to think what was different. I don't think that they were at the stone table to begin with.
Were they not?
In the books, Aslan and everyone were at the stone table, and then after they met with the witch, they moved to the fords. I don't think in the movie anyone was at the stone table. I think Susan fought in the battle.
Did she not in the book?
Very long. No, she was not meant to fight.
Oh,
Not meant to fight.
is she the one that was given the healing drops? No, that was Lucy.
Susan has a bow.
Okay, yeah.
I think Susan fought for a short time in the battle, which was not meant to happen. Did not happen. But I understand. Power. But I'm trying to think my last.
Well, I got into the book and realized I the first 3 or 4 chapters was familiar. So I think I had started reading it at some point and just didn't like it and abandoned it. Yeah. The first 4 chapters, after about the first 4 chapters, it stopped being familiar. So I think I may have picked it up at some point. I did notice in the book, when they first found, I can't remember I think it was when all 4 of them went into the Narnia. I think the housekeeper was showing people around the house, and so they were trying to hide.
Yes.
So that didn't happen in the movie. I don't think. I don't remember
I thought someone was trying to come in the room.
Maybe I was like,
But I remembered a knob, turning, jumping. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Maybe I was on Facebook during that. Maybe I missed it.
It's been quite a while since I've seen
Yeah.
the movie too.
But by and large, I really felt like it stayed true to the book.
It really did. It really did.
Yeah. And you have to expect movies
There's going to be changes.
Yeah, they're not gonna they're gonna do it whatever they can to.
Yeah, there's got to be changes for sure.
Yeah.
But when you reread it, when you're a kid and you read it, you read about the kids, and Edmund and Lucy always are the ones that make an impression for me anyway. And Lucy's just great, and Lucy's this, and Lucy's that, and Edmund's just horrible, and isn't he awful, and what a bully, and all that stuff.
He's a typical boy.
Yeah. When you read it as an adult and you appreciate more the story that C.S. Lewis was trying to tell, the nuances of behavior, he's a kid, I think 10. I can't remember if they mentioned the ages. His father's off at war. He's in this nice country home, and they're having fun at this nice country home, but he's being bossed around by his older brother and his older sister. He doesn't want to be. He wants to be home. He wants things to go back to normal. And apparently, at the end of the book, they do mention that when he went to his school, which a lot of British kids, they go off to school for a term and then come home. So they're like a boarding school. It's not uncommon. And I think just they're probably middle class, so that would be expected. At the end of the book, it mentions that he looked like he did before he went off to that school when all the trouble started. When he started getting bullyish more so, or something like that. And again, that goes back to the people you spend time with.
Exactly.
So they mentioned that. They mentioned he's just a kid that's in a horrible position, and I think he doesn't know how to deal with it. And then he meets this woman who gives him all this candy, and you're going to be a prince. And I mean,
And what boy doesn't want to be a prince or a king? Or
it's
yeah,
going to be a king someday and have
Yeah.
this kingdom and rule over your
and
or those older sister.
on top of that,
telling you what to do.
exactly. And on top of that, she gives you Turkish Delight.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she gives you the sweet that you want. This
While we're talking about that, you want to try a pit bite of it, and which one you want to try?
we can. Let's start with.
Pomegranate. And then we'll one thing I noticed about it in the movie, the Turkish Delight that he ate was real gooey.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. I was kind of expecting it to be gooey. This is more of a top jelly.
Well, that's true.
It's good though. It has a good flavor. The one we just tried is the pomegranate. It's got kind of a tart.
Yeah, it's a little more salty than sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing the pistachios.
Yeah, it's got pistachios in it. So,
Good though.
yeah. So anyway, you were
That's sharp.
mm-hmm.
On that.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean it was good. It isn't what I would call sweet, but yeah. I wouldn't sell my siblings into slavery for it.
No. I'll take a Snickers bar any day.
A Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, Edmund's just, and I noticed when I looked at C.S. Lewis that when he went off to boarding school at one school was when he rejected his Christian teachings. So I wondered if maybe he brought that into
maybe as a parallel of himself.
right.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
So at what point you said when did you say you read this for the first time?
I was in fifth
Roundabout.
grade.
So at what point did you read it and understand the real meaning behind the story? Like did you get that right away?
I mean, I got that right away.
But of course you were reading it in a
helps,
Christian school.
It
So
helps though, when a teacher's reading it to you and then, she teaches us,
explaining it in real time. Yeah.
All that stuff. So I got that right away. Now, I don't know how many people do get that right. Anyone who knows the story of, the basic story of Jesus lays down his life for us should get that.
Yeah.
But not everyone knows that story.
True.
We're just sad.
Yeah. And I saw some reviews of people that said this book ruined their lives. But I don't think they were Christians, but but a lot of people said this really.
This book ruined your life.
Well, exactly. It's a children's book.
Yeah. One's under conviction.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I thought. Sometimes people, they don't like Christians or anything to do with it. And so, yeah.
Someone's under deep conviction.
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting that I saw several comments to that effect. I do. Oh. It's today's
Christian book. Just don't read a Christian book.
It's today's society. Yeah. It's a very angry society.
This exists.
Yeah.
It should not exist in my world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
And pretend it doesn't.
Exactly.
I don't know what to tell you.
Ignore it.
But yeah, and Edmund has always just, especially since the movie, Skadar Keens, I think I'm saying the thing right. I don't think he acts anymore, which I think is a shame. I think he's fantastic as Edmund. I think he sold every bit. Ever since the movie came out, Edmund has meant even more to me.
Yeah. I don't feel like he was as bratty in the movie as he was.
Maybe not. But I mean, he still agreed to, turn his brothers,
Yeah.
sisters in.
Yeah, for some Turkish Delight and a crown.
That's enough for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it just, it's us. We mess up, we screw up, even though he's feeling every step of the way this isn't the right thing to do, but he does it anyway.
But he does.
This isn't the right thing to do.
And how many times, even as Christians, we do that? We do things, we say things, that we know we shouldn't do, but it's just that little bit of...
No times. I mean, I can't even count the number of times I'm like, I'm not supposed to do this, but I do.
I'm not supposed to think that, but it's just that little bit of flesh that's still in you that we're never going to be rid of.
Because we're human.
Yeah, that's why the Bible says you have to crucify the flesh every single day.
Yeah. It's a great way to capture
those real
daily struggle, really, because it is. You come up against stuff every day and you have a decision to make. Do you usually take the easy way out and do it this way?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying every day you're going to come up against some monumental temptation.
No, thank goodness. Yeah.
It's not like, do I eat the donut or do I have the granola bar?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that. I'm just saying, every once in a while, everyone has their own weaknesses, and Satan's not an idiot. I mean, he is, but he knows.
He's a smart adversary.
He knows what your weakness is, and he's gonna, just like, here's the White Witch. He's like, oh, this kid looks like he's a candy person.
Mm-hmm.
What could he want? Like she,
yeah.
And it's like she could read his mind.
Yeah.
So he gets what he wants.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Yeah.
It was never going to be the way she said, though.
No.
Never.
Which is exactly how Satan works.
He was just going to be either dead or turned into a stone statue, and so it's just like,
Was she representative of the devil? I never really I thought that while I was reading it, but just now I was just like, oh, it almost sounds like that she could be sort of a parallel for Satan.
She is.
Yeah.
She is, pretty much. When I was looking up C.S. Lewis, it's interesting what all he draws from, because a lot of it is mythology, Norse mythology. Of course, the creatures that he puts in there, dyads and naiads and fauns, satyrs, centaurs. There's all sorts of mythological creatures that.
Yeah, faun. Is that what Tumnus was?
Yes, he was a faun.
Yeah.
So his fascination with that plays into, the magic of Narnia, because here's this magical land and you've got this lion and these animals who can talk, but then you've also got these creatures, and some are half human, half creature, and some are this and some are.
Awesome.
So it's interesting to me that he put that in, and I can see why there are a lot of Christians who would reject it just because of the inclusion of those characters. Because they're from Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norse mythology.
Yeah. But kids like that. Most kids like that. What do you call that fantasy?
And that's what he was doing.
Yeah, and I don't think it was any wrong with that, because it's Christian fiction. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it either.
Yeah, it's fine, and if it's a way to capture kids' attention,
Yes.
and to get them to read some wholesome literature, especially these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff out there kids are reading anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in all honesty, I never really, as a Christian, felt like I should read Harry Potter.
Lots of people feel that way.
Yeah. No judgment against anyone that did read it and enjoy it. I haven't even watched the movies.
We watched the movies. I mean, I've seen the movies, and they're fine.
Right.
After we watched, was it the first one? It was my husband turned to me and he was like, "Oh, it's a kids movie." He said, that was kind of terrifying there at the end. I said, yeah, that was a little scary. And it just gets worse as it goes on, because it does get this poor kid. This is way off topic, but if I was a student at Hogwarts during the time Harry Potter was there, I would be so mad. Because, like, what kind of education am I getting? Because all that's happening is my life is in danger the entire time I'm at school. I'm supposed to be getting taught. Darn it.
Not running for my life.
Yes. What is this nonsense? I want my money back.
But then again, would the book have been as good if
No, it just would have been a bunch of kids wandering back and forth.
Exactly. So, and who wants to read that?
No one wants to read.
Because we all did that in real life. Sometimes
we already did that. We don't want to do it again.
We don't want to read about it.
Yeah, we don't. You don't want to do it again unless it's like Sweet Valley High or something.
Yeah.
Dated myself again.
You dated yourself. Believe it or not, I've never read that series. I've heard of it, but yeah, it's not. Is it not?
I read a couple. They were okay, but I never got. I was much more interested in girls from the 1800s. I wanted to know about their problems. I didn't care about twins, beautiful blonde twins in California who really had no real problems.
Yeah.
It
just feels kind of trivial compared to 1800s.
Yeah. I said, no. Give me an orphan from the 1800s.
Oh, see, I'm the total opposite. I like contemporary.
It just seemed like they didn't have many problems for me, so I never really got into Sweet Valley High that much.
Oh, you got a BMW convertible for Christmas? How nice for you!
Isn't that lovely?
Meanwhile, in 1800s, they're trying to figure out where to get their next meal.
Yeah. For contemporary problems, I took myself to the Babysitters Club, but that was where I went.
Yeah.
They seem to have more realistic problems than the twins at Sweet Valley High.
Nothing. Okay. Imagine that.
Yeah. I could sort of be on a level with them.
The first world problems.
I was not beautiful and blonde. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first. Well, I can't say it's the first series. But as the first series, I kind of went ahead and explored on my own. After discovering, my mom used to read Little House on the Prairie to me.
Mm-hmm. I just
read me all the books.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. But speaking of,
Mom is calling.
Mom is calling. I'm podcasting. Mom is sorry. But it was the first one that I was like, oh, I need to. So, all the books. I need all the books.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was Anne of Green Gables and all those books. I needed those.
Christie and all those.
Yes. I needed those.
Now, of the Narnia books, does one stand out sort of as your all-time favorite, or is it The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, or
The Last Battle?
Is that the name of the book, The Last Battle? Okay, that's your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one that sort of wraps it all up. And
yes,
okay,
that's my favorite one. I also enjoy The Horse and His Boy quite a lot. I've always liked it, but yeah, it's The Last Battle for sure.
Okay.
The Horse and His Boy does not. It's a little It actually kind of occurs a little bit during the time of this book.
Yeah, because from what I've read, the characters in Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe do not occur in all the books. Yeah.
No, sometimes the kids are different, and then The Horse and His Boy takes place during the reign of Peter. Susan, they're not really in it.
So you know them from a distance.
But yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's cool.
Yeah. See, like I don't know, like when I read a series, I kind of like it's kind of nice to have that familiarity. So yeah, it's kind of odd that they're not main characters through the whole series.
They're not, but it all works out.
Yeah.
It all tends to work out. So It's done well. It's done well. I'd say they're all, you know, you gotta love the Pevensies, but there are other characters that are just as dynamic and will grab you sometimes even more.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more. You know?
I may read the second book at some point. Yeah. I didn't love the book, but I didn't hate it. I'm kind of somewhere.
Well, I mean, it's a little simplistic. Again,
yeah, you would expect a kid's book to be.
Yeah. So it's just very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's telling the story.
Yeah.
And it's not.
But I think for me, part of the I've never been a big on British fiction because they use terminology that we don't always know around here, and which is cool if you're a kid or even an adult, because that's how you learn new things.
Right.
But sometimes British literature, even today, like I pick up and read the sample of a book because I read mostly on Kindle. A big portion of the time, if it takes place in British and it's got a lot of British vernacular, I wind up not reading it. So yeah.
See, I everything about England, Ireland, Scotland.
Yeah.
KT. I don't know. I want to know.
Yeah, I've never been into like the Bridgerton series and what's the other one, The Crown on Netflix. I've just never really been into those.
The Crown.
I think.
Oh, The Crown.
Is that what it's called? The series?
Yeah. It's very good. Yeah, British history, and I'm a.
Yeah, no, I like watching documentaries on like the royal family and stuff like that. But I just, I don't know, for some reason, I'm not a big fan of period pieces.
Which is, yes, and I knew that. I knew you weren't. I knew you weren't.
Yeah. But it wasn't a horrible book. I just,
No. And it is, like I said, it's an easy read, which is something I needed.
Yeah.
Something I needed at the time. But yeah, I enjoyed reading it again and getting to see them again through somewhat older eyes, because it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Probably since I was in my 30s, at least.
Yeah.
Since I've read the book. But I enjoyed getting to read it.
Mm-hmm.
The way the march to the stone table and how girls go with him, which I've been watching the Chosen. I don't know if you have.
I haven't watched it.
But it and it's not for everyone. I know I'm not trying to get a debate started. Please hit me. If you don't like The Chosen, that's fine. I'm not.
Entertainment purposes only.
I'm not taking, belief tips from Dallas Jenkins.
Right.
It's just, it reminded me the women are very visible in The Chosen. And when you think about the Bible, you don't always think about how the women were involved in Jesus's ministry. But I mean, they were there. They were present. They were there in the morning. The stone was away.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave it a deeper meaning to me when I read it through this time. And it was Susan and Lucy who walked with him to the edge of the wood.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, no,
you can't
go any farther. There's both Lewis and Tolkien get accused of sexism, which
well, so did Jesus. I mean,
they both get accused of sexism in their writings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's the case. I think it was just a different time.
It was a different time.
But I gained a new appreciation for Lewis. Having Susan and Lucy be the ones that walked with Aslan as far as they could go with him.
Yeah.
He didn't ask them to go, but they asked if they could go with him, and he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave him comfort.
Mhm.
Because at one point he doesn't, he's very sad, and he says, "Put your hands in my fur and walk with me," and they do, and I think they gave him comfort. So, um,
And that's sort of representative too of how Jesus felt before going to the cross, because he
yes,
asked
he went.
great drops of blood, and he prayed, "Lord, let this pass from me if it be your will."
Yes,
So I felt like that was a little bit representative of that too.
yes, it was absolutely representative, and it just, watching The Chosen has made me hyper aware of women in the Bible, because Mary Magdalene plays such an upfront part. There's a part for Rama, who, she's not in the Bible, but that doesn't mean there weren't more women around.
Uh-huh.
There's there's Eden, who is Simon's wife. I think he was the only apostle that was married, which I didn't even realize there was an apostle that was married, but it's in the Bible. He had a wife. They just gave her a name.
Yeah.
And she's a character on the show. And, Jesus' mother shows up. Mary shows up. There's Mary and Martha. There's, it brings the women more into view, which I do think is important, because Christianity comes under attack a lot for being patriarchal.
It does, yeah.
But there are women in the Bible. It's just that you have to look for them, and they're important.
They are.
So, having been watching that over the last year, it's just kind of made me hyper aware of any time someone mentions a woman in the Bible. So this time reading it through, having Susan and Lucy,
Yeah.
the ones that walked with him, I just got a whole new appreciation for that.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed.
Which was interesting. I didn't even think about it in the book when I was reading it, but which was interesting that he did that, because, again, I mean, this was I guess it was the 70s when he wrote. Well, that was when he died, so he would have written that.
Yeah, these were published, I think, between 49 and 54.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting choice that he used the girls instead of the boys, because,
yeah,
that.
I mean, at that time,
that was kind of a bold choice. Yeah,
it was a little bit of a bold choice.
Yeah.
We kept them out of the war, which would have been the thinking of the day. No one wanted the women in the war.
Mm-hmm.
The women had enough to do at home, and they, the mindset of the time would have been protect the women and children as much as possible. They just gone through a Second World War. They weren't interested in having their women fight.
Exactly. Yeah.
That wasn't on the table. And I'm not saying women can't fight.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
You want to serve in the military. Serve in the military. I was going to serve in the military myself, and it just didn't happen. So I'm not saying women can't fight. I'm just saying the thinking of the time.
Of the day. Mm-hmm.
Keep the women out of battle.
Somebody's got to stay home and take care of the family and watch the house.
Yes.
That was kind of the mentality of the day.
It was. And they did a great deal. I mean, they did a great deal more than that. I mean, factories wouldn't have run, and things wouldn't have been made. And
exactly.
That was true both in the UK and in the US. Gotta rivet those rivets.
Mm-hmm. Tough. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of Angela Hunt. She was the author of the very first book that we discussed on this podcast, The Woman for Lydia. And I think that's one thing I like about her books is she sort of draws out the lesser known female characters in the Bible, at least in the series that I've read. I don't know about all the rest of them. And I kind of like that, because in the Bible, when you see these little known characters like Euodia, I think she played a lot bigger role than what you see in the Bible.
Right.
She was more important to Jesus' ministry than what you see in the Bible.
Yeah.
But again, that was the day. The people who wrote the Bible, they wouldn't have necessarily focused on the women's contributions.
On that, and also what they're focusing on is Jesus.
Yes, it was about.
They're not, except for James, who's running around.
And the gospel, yeah,
the one whom Jesus loved.
Yeah.
But they're focusing on Jesus. So why would they talk that much
Yeah.
about, it's not the story of Mary Magdalene. It's the story of Jesus. It's not the story of Martha. It's the story of Jesus. This isn't, we're not trying to pass the Bechdel test here. It's the story of Jesus. It's the story about him. So the only time a woman is going to get mentioned is when he is, speaking to that woman or healing that woman, or
you and Sentenchi need to stop fighting.
It's bad. You're going to someone. And that's just, it's people need to stop looking at past days through a present lens. It's just it wasn't the way it was. And I'm not saying that was good. But that's not the way it was then.
Yeah. And it just, but then again, we live in a time in history where let's tear down that statue because we don't like it. They want to tear down and bury the history they don't like. But history,
you're doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. If you bury history, what have you learned? You're going to repeat history. Yeah. So
at some point, maybe not in the next 50 or 60 years, but at some point.
But guess what? This world's not about just us right now. It's about the people that are going to be here 200 years from now when we're gone. No, I don't think it's. And the way this world's going, Jesus can't be much longer.
I would hope not.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to take into consideration that was the time, and you have to read it, with that in mind.
Absolutely. So it's been kind of an odd walk. I mean, you guys know the story. 4 kids. They find a magical land through a wardrobe, and I suppose I shouldn't call this at the beginning of the podcast. Sorry. There are talking animals and
Mr. and Miss
wicked woman who's trying to take over everything, and it's always winter but never Christmas, and doesn't that stink?
As the self-proclaimed Mr. Christmas, I did not like that. Always winter but never Christmas.
But she got hers in the end.
Father
Christmas showed up, and that was that.
He did. Yeah.
And then everything thawed.
And then spring came. Yep.
The flowers grew.
Yep.
Grass grew.
And there's a good message in that. No matter where you are, what you're going through, it's not always going to be this way.
It's true.
Especially when you are living your life in Christ. So, yeah. So I enjoy the book. Deep thoughts. Well, for me anyway.
It'll work.
Yeah.
So, do we want to try one more? Do we want to try them all?
Which one do you? Pistachio, rose, and I don't know what this third one is.
I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by this here. Like, it looks like fade.
Yeah, it looks like it's got some sort of.
I think it's got pistachios in it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's on it.
Yeah, it's is it coconut maybe? Toasted coconut? I hate to eat in front of the people watching, but I thought this would be fine. It's not bad. But when I
know that taste, but I can't place it.
Yeah.
It's not quite as tart.
I think the pomegranate made that really tart. Not too tart, but for the people that are maybe interested in this, for the video, I'll put a link to the if you want to go to this website and check it out. I think it was $30 for the set of candy, and then about twice that to have it shipped to the United States. Yeah. So you like it?
Yeah.
I think I'm just a little bit disappointed because I wanted it to be real gooey like it was in the movie, and this is not that. In the movie, it was real gooey and stringy when he ate it, and I thought that looked kind of good.
I'm wondering this. Maybe you should have ordered it from Britain.
Maybe. Well, yeah. Well, I guess yes. The movie was. Maybe that's what British.
That's what British
Turkish
Turkish
Delight.
Delight looks like.
Yeah, you want to try the rose?
Let's see.
I don't know why the rose one was the one that kind of seemed interesting to me because that's not something you typically think about
You
eating.
had rose.
And it looks like it has little edible rose petals.
Yeah.
It looks like it's rolled in it. So. Pull it.
I don't think that's for me.
You don't like it?
I don't think I can take a bite. I tasted it before I took a bite. And
No, okay. No.
no.
To me, it's got kind of a grapey flavor to it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm weird. I'm not super fond of the smell of roses. But I like it okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very overbearing except for me, and I can taste it before it's even.
Oh, well.
So.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that will work.
Pass on that one. And then
on that.
the last one is just, it looks like it's rolled in.
Covered in pistachios.
Yeah, it's covered in pistachios.
Sorry, guys.
So I just thought this would be a fun little thing since Turkish Delight, he mentions Turkish Delight several times.
He does. That doesn't seem to have much of them. Oh. There's more of the flavors.
I can't place any of the flavors.
No, but I think I like the pomegranate one the best.
Do you? You like that little tangy kick?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
These are all much better than the ones I tried. So
well
done.
Were yours the one that were rolled in cotton sugar or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah. They had some like that on the website, but they were in a log. And I don't know. I wanted a sample pack so we could try to. And the website said these are traditional flavors, but they don't look like what he ate in the movie. I was expecting more of a.
Yeah.
Just looked like it was just a jelly rolled in powdered sugar.
Yes.
Or something. So I'm wondering if maybe these are luxurious, quote unquote,
right,
versions of the Turkish Delight.
Contemporary than adults.
Yeah. So I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Some of the comments that I saw online when I was Googling, because because I wanted a good company, and a lot of people were saying that it's way overhyped and it's nasty and gross. But I mean, I still would rather have chocolate, but I don't think it's bad.
Agreed. No.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't bad enough. I still would not sell anyone into, servitude.
No, it's not that good.
It's not that good, but then I haven't been without sugar for
Exactly.
years.
Yeah.
And my father isn't off at war, and I'm not.
If we hadn't had sugar in 10 years, this would probably be a huge treat. So
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So
yeah.
We'll lay off you, Edmund. We understand.
Yeah, we get it.
We get it.
We totally get it. So I'll flash the screen and maybe put a link in the description for those of you that if you're interested in trying it. Like I said, they do sell them on Amazon. I just didn't want those because I wanted an authentic Turkish Delight. So this is for me. So if you do order it, just know that the shipping is going to cost you more than the. So, but for this, I thought it was worth it to have a little fun and try something new. But it turns out you've already tried it. So,
well, I mean, nothing like this, and I don't really remember what it tasted like. I just remember it.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, I also love it here.
True. Yeah. It probably was made in Detroit. So. Yeah. So, well, is there anything else you want to talk about the book before we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty enjoyable read.
Yeah.
I'm glad you quote unquote forced me to read it. So, for those of you that are interested, we do have a website. Sorry, not a website. We're on all social media, except Twitter. We're on Instagram, Facebook under Bookish Introverts. So you can just do a search. We'd love for you to follow us there. We'll post little clips of the longer ones and just little, every once in a while, we'll just post little stuff. You can find us on all podcasting platforms on YouTube. So, okay. You want to tell them about the next episode? Or should we?
Well, the next episode, we will be reading Sisters of Corinth
The Sisters of Corinth.
by Angela Hunt. And
It's book 2 of The Woman from Lydia that we read in the first
yes,
on the first podcast episode.
it's fairly new. May? Was it published in May?
Yes,
This May?
it just came out. Yeah, and normally when it comes to these podcast episodes, we're not going to do the same author several episodes in a row, kind of like we're doing now. But the reason we did that, I had never read biblical fiction before we read that, and I was so impressed with that book that, of course, I went in and started looking at all her other books, and I realized that after we did that episode, like the second book in that episode in that series, like literally came out just right after.
Yeah, it just happened to be matter of timing.
Yeah. So we're doing our first author interview for our next episode, and we're gonna have Angela Hunt has agreed to come on, and I'm so excited. Yeah. So for those of you that like Angela Hunt, or if you've just never heard of her,
Yeah.
we're gonna do our first author, and I'm so nervous about it
Terrified.
because not only just this will be our first time to talk. I'm really nervous about it from the technical aspect because it's the first time, because of course she's in Florida or wherever she's going to be, and we're here, and so
Right.
yeah, so that's going to be a little bit of a
That's
different
one.
technical, from the technical aspect, that's going to be a little bit different. So I'm a little bit nervous about it. I'm afraid that I don't want to go through an hour of interviewing her and then get it back and it be all weird and wonky. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. So that's something fun to look forward to. So and we're not going to do an author interview every episode, but we will start incorporating more of those. Right now we're like we said in the first episode, we're doing mostly recognizable authors, but at some point we're going to start reading and talking about lesser known authors, because I think what they contribute to the Christian fiction genre is important.
Very important.
Yeah,
Very important.
yeah. So I really want to shine the light on some of those people, and we've already had a few reach out that have asked to be on the podcast, which is exciting to me.
Yes, it is.
So I love that people want to be on the podcast with us. So yeah. So that's what we've got coming up. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Well,
I'm good.
thank you guys for joining us, and
Thank you.
we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.